Welcome to another edition of the McEnulty Method, where we try to help young adults live better financial lives. I'm joined tonight by financial expert Frank McEnulty. Frank, how you doing?
Great, Colin. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about some personal finance. Last time you gave us the whole rundown, what we could expect for the next 10 weeks, and I don't think we should waste any time kicking off session one, which just to remind everyone listening was financial foundation. So everything about what is personal finance, why it's important, and some of the basic ideas. So Frank, let's just start with that. What is personal finance and why is it important?
Well, personal finance is basically just about managing your money. You know, budgeting, saving, investing, planning for the future. It's it's about trying to make smart decisions for your financial resources to meet whatever goals you have and trying to get some financial stability in your life.
You'll thank yourself for it later.
Right. I had this conversation with the professor next door to me earlier today. He was telling me that once a semester he's a law professor. He's a lawyer. He teaches law class. He goes, once a semester I have a class with a session with every class where I tell them, here's what you need to do financially. Don't make them same mistakes I did. And that's sort of what you know I'm trying to do as well. It's it's fairly easy if you just start early and do it over the long term.
Well, certainly what makes it easier too is not looking too far ahead, right? Setting realistic goals, trying to stick to those goals. And, I think that's a big core of personal finance, right? When we get into saving, investing, how you spend, setting targets for yourself. So, Frank, can you talk a little bit about how you would set well, first of all, what personal financial goals might look like, and then maybe a little bit about what an example of setting a financial goal would be.
Well, financial goals change as your life changes. You're a college student, you're just getting out of college. It might just be, I want to save money to buy a car. Okay, that's fine. Then might change to, okay, I want to save money to buy a house or buy a condo or just buy property. And so that changes. Then you meet somebody else, you want to get married, your goals change again. You have kids, your goals change again. It's a constantly changing thing. You can't say, okay, I'm setting my goals here at the age of 21 and I'm never going to change. Well, you're probably going to die alone. It's a, you
No,
know,
life's life at 21. That's gonna be the same until you're 80 years
right.
old. Nothing changes.
And it's about setting goals, but setting flexible goals.
Right. Yeah, and I what my the best advice my dad gave me, he said, until about the time he was 30 or 40, he lived his life 4 years at a time. So because the goals do change. Now when we talk about, you mentioned a couple examples. Let's throw the example out. I want to buy a car, right? How would you go about if that was your goal, what are the things that you would be thinking about?
What do, how much do I really need to spend on a car?
That's a bad example. You don't like buying new cars. No, I'm
Well,
kidding.
I buy a new car because I'm going to drive it forever. I don't run through cars. I mean, my cars have, well, I had two a while ago. I only got one left, but they had 180,000 miles on them each. It's running. Just keep going. I don't have a job where I have to impress anybody. It's like all I need to do is show up,
It's true.
and that's where people get. Well, I've got to impress people. I've got to show. I have to get a Mercedes or a BMW or something other. You don't. Just don't. Um, and so part of it is, you know, so they have a acronym called SMART goals in finance. And so the first one is you want to set specific goals. What do you want to achieve?
Right.
Okay, maybe it's as simple as I want to have $5,000 in the bank so I don't have to worry about something going wrong. Okay, that's a goal. How do we, as you sort of say, okay, you need to measure it. So I want to have $5,000 in the bank in a year. Okay, so then over the next, so theoretically, you got to save like $400 a month. Okay, are you doing that? It's easy to track, easy to measure. It's not crazy. Is it achievable? Well, if you're making $6,000 a month, you should be able to save $400 a month. I know it's Southern California, but you should still be able to save $400 a month. Is it relevant? Does it make sense to have this goal? And part of it is, okay, well, I want $5,000 in the bank so I can feel comfortable. So I don't have to worry about, you know, the older car I have has a problem. Am I going to have the money to fix it? And then timely, well, we've already sort of talked about that. That's the deadline. What's the deadline? What's the time frame we want to do this in?
Which is important.
It is. And you can do that for anything. You can do that for just having
House,
a savings
car,
account, a car, down payment for a house.
those expensive weddings.
Don't waste a lot of money on a wedding. It's just a party.
Is that? I mean, you only get two or three of those in your life.
Hopefully one.
Well, with setting goals, obviously it's great to think about, okay, this is how much I need to save, this is how much time and all of that. Obviously, a big part of that is budgeting, right? Because okay, now you know what you're going for. How do you budget your income appropriately for that? So, if I was new to budgeting, what would you say are some basic budgeting strategies?
Well, it's really about how you're going to split up what you make every year, every month. You know what you've got a job, you know what you're going to bring home every month. That's really probably not going to change much. You're going to work, you're either on an hourly basis or you get paid 40 hours a week, or you're on salary where you get paid so much a month. Now, really, starting out in your career, if you can get on hourly, that's better because you can work overtime. Overtime's at time and a half. That's good money. That's better money. You get time and a half for it. You need some more money? Work more. Really simple. That's, better. Oh, I want to be on a salary. Well, if you're on a salary, you work more, you get the same amount a lot of times. So, but, they have rules for everything. And there's a budgeting rule called the 50-30-20 rule. And that's 50% of your income goes to needs, your rent, your food, your bills. Yeah, so Southern California, that's tough. But if you keep that in mind, you go, okay, well, maybe I can't afford that apartment 2 blocks from the beach. I can drive to the beach in my older car when I want to go there. 30% goes to wants, eating out, subscriptions, and 20% goes to savings or debt repayment. Personally, I think 30% to wants is probably a little high. Do you really want to waste that much money on eating out every month?
Makes you feel good
Makes you feel good. Yeah, but you know what really makes you feel good in the long run?
when you can retire.
Not even retire, because retirement's overrated, I think, for a lot of people. Because I know so many people that retire, then it's like,
What do I
well,
do?
what am I going to do now? They just go get another job. They don't need the money, but they got to have something to do.
Yeah,
But what feels good is not worrying about money.
it is true.
Is somebody comes up and says, "Hey, we were thinking of going to Florida we're going to Disney World in Florida. You want
Right.
to come?" Okay, I got the money. I don't have to worry about it. It's going to cost a couple $1,000. Not an issue. To me, that's far more valuable
Make
than
makes you feel a lot better.
eating out all the time. Because eating out, it's sort of like eating out, sort of like renting. You're paying double or triple for the food
Yeah.
that you could get yourself. And so, yeah, it is fun to eat out. I mean, we eat out once a week, basically, usually.
Yeah.
So, but so then it's also special. If you eat out every night,
Yeah,
it's
it's,
like,
it's
oh God, where are we going to go to eat tonight? So, and
that's
you're
stressful
you're
too.
and you're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, once again, look at your budget. What really is important to you?
Well, and I think you did a pretty good job there differentiating wants versus needs. But I want to focus on that savings piece because you always have the saying, pay yourself first. And so, put that on a tombstone somewhere. But what would you tell like, what does that mean when you think about it in terms of a budgeting?
Well, what it means is that you never see the money. And most payroll with most companies now, they're all through a service. And so you can automatically have your check go to, so say you make $5,000 a month. Your net check's $5,000 a month. And I'm just using nice round numbers to be even here. It can be whatever. You say, okay, I want to save $500 a month. I want to save 5%. I want to save 500 into my long-term investment account. Well, then you have, when you fill out your payroll form, okay, 4,500 goes to my checking account, 5,000 goes to my Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard account into the long-term growth fund. And so you never see it because there's always a reason not to send that $500. But if it's just there, then you learn to live on 4,500
Right.
rather than the 5,000. Well, yeah, I don't want to send it this month. Or yeah, I forgot. I'll do
There
it
you go.
later.
But, one of these days we need to get a blank template of those forms and go through it because, every time everybody I talk to, they fill these forms out when they get hired, eyes just glaze over. But you're absolutely right. If the money goes out, if you set it up correctly and the money's just not there when you get your paycheck, you learn to live on what it is that you take home. And that's kind of the set it and forget it. It just goes and it happens. Whereas you're absolutely right. If you have to physically log into your computer, open up your bank account, wire the money, it's very easy month to month to not follow through on whatever your goal or your plan
Well, it is.
is.
You want to make it as simple as possible.
There you go. Speaking of making things simple, wrapping up budgeting, common question is what kind of tools people can use to budget. There's all kinds of fancy apps and whatnot out there, but in your
Well,
opinion,
in my opinion, the easiest tool is just have the money go into your investments first.
hmm
There, you've budgeted. Then whatever else you get is yours for the month. That's that's the simplest tool there is. You don't have to do anything. I think people get carried away with budgeting. Okay, well, I'm gonna. Oh, what did I spend yesterday? I know I spent $8 somewhere, $8, and they start keeping every receipt and writing down, and it's like it becomes a job, and you don't want another job, and then you just stop doing it because it's a pain in the butt. So that's quite honestly the easiest way to budget. Let's say you want to you want to fund your Roth IRA, which okay, let's say that's $7,200 a month because I don't want to think too hard, or 7,200 a year. So you take when you get your paycheck, $600 would go automatically into your Roth.
Mhm.
And then you want to have just a savings account. 500 a month goes in there. You're done. Your budgeting's done. Now out of your 5,000, you've put 1,100 away, around 20%. You've got $3,900 left for the month. Boom, you're done. If at the end of the month your checking account has money in it, it should. Don't spend yourself the last dime
That's
because you never know what comes up. But
right. The old car might fall apart on you.
you don't have to put a lot of work into. I think that,
Right.
and that's what
Don't
kills.
overthink it.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Don't get too into the numbers and that is stressful in of itself, when you talk about when we get to investing, trying to track this stuff every single day, you'll go crazy
Right.
trying to do it all.
Absolutely.
Well, let's wrap it up. We talked about a lot of good things today, and we just went through budgeting. So why don't we look at a question from a real student
Sure.
about budgeting? So this question comes in, and the question is, a little context. Their New Year's resolution this year was to be more conscious of their finances. They mentioned that they're currently trying to follow the 50/30/20 model, but they've run into a few questions. So again, for some context, they work a part-time job, but they're also a student and they receive financial aid from the college. I guess they're on the quarter system. Now, their first question is, I guess, when they're thinking of their budget, should they count the money they receive from the school towards their income?
Well, it depends on what the money they're receiving from the school is supposed to be used for. If it's for tuition, then yeah, just have it go to tuition and be done with it.
Right.
Um, what I hear a lot about around here, though, is kids get just financial aid for living expenses and that.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, in many ways, they get the check. So they get the check for the whole semester at the beginning of the semester
Oof.
rather than split it over 5 months. So they get $3,000, they get 3,000.
Right.
It's not,
And then they got to budget it out for the.
it's not they get $600 for the 5 months of the semester.
Mhm.
So yeah, you've got to, and all too often that $3,000 gets spent because all of a sudden they got all this money in their account
There's a new
and
car on campus.
well, it's not even, no, it's not even a new car, but
No,
they can
it's
afford
not.
to buy drinks for their friends or buy dinner and
They could eat out every night of
right,
the
it
week.
just goes away.
Yeah,
So yeah, you've got to once again, what's the money going to be used for?
right.
Treat it like that.
Yeah. And then their second question, and we'll get into this more in later sessions, I'm sure, but just at a high level, they've heard about these things called high yield savings accounts. So in the theme of budgeting, they're wondering should they be sending most of their money to these high yield savings accounts instead of I assume a traditional savings or checking account.
Well, sure. There's the higher the yield, the more you have to have in the account to probably get the yield. So that's always a question. But yeah, try to get more interest. Credit unions usually pay more interest than banks. Online financial institutions often pay the best interest. They may not be the most easy to access sometimes. And I don't mean they're going to steal your money or anything. It's just
No, but they don't have as many ATMs and
right.
they don't have physical locations you can visit. You're relying on whatever their network is. And
But once again, there's nothing wrong with having, say, a checking account at the credit union,
oh, yeah.
savings account at the credit union, then another savings account in the cloud. Just make sure they're FDIC insured. Make
In,
sure they're a real financial institution because that cloud money sort of goes away. It's just off by
there
itself
you go.
and
You
you
don't
forget
even,
about it
you forget about
because
it.
you're not checking your bank statement every day because you're not using it.
That's what it's all about. Well, Frank, thank you for going over all this. It was very informative. And actually, I think that was a good last question because next time we're going to be talking about banking, savings, emergency funds. So now that they know how to budget and properly set goals, okay, how do we open an account? How do we get started? And actually executing on those goals. So everyone listening will definitely want to tune in for that episode. And Frank, any final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
No, I think it comes back to the KISS principle. Just keep it simple.
And then we can't say the last S in today's world, but but Frank, we appreciate it, and for all those listening, we'll see you next time on the McEnulty Method.
Thanks, Colin.